Coming up, Nigel Farage's Reform 2025 Limited. More a political protest company than a political party. They promise to drain the swamp. A war on woke, slashing your council taxes and delivering common sense governance to Britain's town halls. But like all populists, they're offering simplistic solutions to complex issues beyond their comprehension and problem-solving abilities. Well, Farage's gang have been in power for a month now, in 10 councils and 2 mayoralties. And what have they delivered? Let's take a closer look, shall we? Stay tuned. Reform UK swept into local power a month ago on a wave of outrage and slogans. They won control of 10 local authorities across England and snapped up 2 mayoralties as well. It was a significant political moment. Farage's gang had finally gone from loudmouth disruptors to actual decision makers. But with power comes responsibility and, as it turns out, a very steep learning curve. Because what Reform UK is discovering very quickly is that it's one thing to shout from the sidelines, but quite another to actually run the show. Let's start with the easy stuff. The symbolic gestures, because on that front, Reform UK is delivering exactly what it said on the tin. Within weeks of taking office, councils under Reform control have been scrubbing out any official language that even hinted at progressive policies. In South Holland, Lincolnshire, they've deleted all references to climate change and equality from council policy documents. In Ashfield, Nottinghamshire, they've banned the flying of Ukrainian flags from council buildings. Don't want to upset Farage's friend Putin after all. And in East Lindsey, Lincolnshire, in another Putin-adjacent move, rainbow flags have been removed as well. One Reform councillor told The Guardian this week, "We were elected to get rid of all that political correctness rubbish. The people are fed up with it." Well, fair enough, no one can be surprised by these performative moves. It's right on brand for the reactionary Reform mob. But beyond the theatre of culture wars, the performance starts to unravel. In Lincolnshire, for example, one of the first moves by Reform councillors was to scrap a long-standing flood scrutiny committee. That's right, in one of the most flood-prone areas in the country, they decided flood oversight was woke nonsense. Local opposition leader Craig Leyland said, "This is reckless. We're removing structures that have saved lives and property in the past. It's not reform, it's vandalism." Meanwhile, the flagship Sunlit Uplands pledge to cut council tax has already run into the solid wall of reality. Reform promised to slash spending by removing inefficiencies and axing wasteful projects. But what they've now belatedly realised is that these councils have already cut spending to the bone. Social care, waste collection, education, housing, none of these things come cheap. In Ashfield, for example, the new Reform leadership quickly backpedalled on their pledge to lower council tax, admitting that doing so could bankrupt the authority. If you're enjoying this video, please remember to give it a like, check that you're subscribed to the channel, leave a comment below and share a link on your social media. Access to my videos will always remain free, but if you do want to support the channel even further, please consider joining our membership program, which offers perks like early access to my videos, members-only content and priority replies to your comments. There's a link below for further details. Deputy Reform UK leader, Farage's TikTok intern Darren Grimes, has insisted the party will carry out citizens' audits, as he calls them, to expose where the money goes. Grimes thinks this sounds impressive, but where the money goes is already a matter of public record. This is just more smoke and mirrors from the man-child obsessed with his own victimhood. One former council officer told the Financial Times this week, "What Reform are calling inefficiencies are often legal obligations. You can't just wave a flag and make budget deficits disappear." Many of Reform's councillors are completely new to politics, which wouldn't be a problem, except that local government is complicated. It's about procurement contracts, regulatory compliance, managing adult social care, preventing homelessness. In other words, it's more than just banning flags and shouting at drag queens. The Guardian reported this week that many of the new Reform councillors are already struggling to get to grips with basic procedures. One local council official in East Lindsey said they turned up thinking they'd be able to rule by press release, but once the cameras are off, they don't know what they're doing. Even inside Reform circles, there's growing tension between national leadership and local reality. Take Hull, for example. Reform's new mayor there, ex-boxer Luke Campbell, has joined a cross-party alliance supporting investment in green energy. And fair play to him for such a sensible decision, but it's in direct contradiction to Reform UK's national hostility to net zero policies. Even new Lincolnshire Reform Mayor Andrea Jenkins, who famously claimed that net zero madness is bankrupting Britain, is now calling for investment in an offshore wind project to boost growth in the local economy. As the Financial Times so aptly put it this week, you can only bang on about carbon emissions being a con until someone shows you a jobs programme linked to green industry. Then it gets awkward. So what's really happening here? Well, we're witnessing the popping of the Reform 2025 Limited balloon, because you can't govern by press release. You can't run councils on memes and Farage soundbites, however much Darren Grimes tugs himself into a frenzy over net zero, pronouns and rainbow flags. You can scream about the deep state all you like, but eventually you've got to empty the bins and fix the potholes. Much as I was very disappointed to see so many Reform councillors and mayors elected, there is a silver lining. Voters are watching. Many gave Reform UK a chance, not because those voters are racist or misogynist or even anti-Europe and pro-Putin, but purely because they were disillusioned with both Labour and the Conservatives. Reform posed as the anti-politics party, the straight talkers, the no-nonsense alternative. But now that they're in office, it's all slogans, backed up by Trumpian victimhood and the blame game of pointing a finger at their preferred scapegoats, immigrants, the feckless youth, and the deep state. And when local services get even worse under their watch, voters will notice. There's a lesson here that echoes through political history. Governing is much harder than protesting. Reform UK has been very good at protesting, let's be honest, but now their bluster is being exposed for what it is. They have no serious answers to our problems, no grasp of policy or governance. All they have is their bluster, their victimhood, and an overriding sense of entitlement. I think of them as the Jeremy Clarkson of British politics, masters of punching down when they don't get what's on the menu, and both driven by middle-aged tantrums, fueled by gammon, and convinced that foreigners and womankind owe them all an apology. At the risk of falling into the populist stereotype myself as a tofu-eating, electric car-driving Guardian reader, I want to finish by quoting a line from that very newspaper this week. Posturing may win headlines, but potholes win elections. And now, Reform are posturing in 10 councils and 2 mayoralties, while the potholes multiply. And that's the very least of the problems that Reform 2025 Limited have no clue how to address, now that they're actually in power.